The land is our foundation, and Land Synergy is here to solidify and restore. Join us as we connect the dots of land restoration, sustainable practices, and self-sufficiency. It's time to get rooted.
Welcome back to Land Synergy, guys. Welcome. Today, we're glad to be back at it. It's the start of the week. Look forward to getting out here and making these episodes. Today, we're going to be talking about biomass. Now, I slightly spoke about the book last week, Compost Everything, and it gave me an idea. So much so that it inspired action. And so what I did is I went ahead and created a separate compost area. And this area is essentially going to be for plant material. So we got a compost for leaves, a compost for scraps, a third compost that essentially no scraps go into. This is for scraps that have decomposed. It's nothing visible you can see. And the last one, this one is actually for plant material, and specifically anything like shrubby, not leaves, but rather like plant material, not wooded. So like let's say I'm going to be digging up the vines and cucumber plants soon. And so all of that I'm going to put into this compost. And what I'm going to do as well is I'm putting any plant materials. So from grass that we cut on our homestead, I'm going to start calling it the farm. Or what? There's a name. What's the name we should come up with? The hub. Yes, I think I like that. At least for now. Okay, the hub. On the hub. So we're going to have so this is going to be essentially biomass, and this is inspired essentially from the idea of compost and everything. And so weeds, right, quote unquote weeds, which is essentially plants that humans just don't like, that grow in a certain place, but it's still plant material. And so we have a whole area that we've allowed to just grow. So dill, milk thistle, wild lettuce, um, uh, a little bit of it was dandelion, clover, um, goldenrod, lamb's quarters. All these plants, these are all powerful medicinal plants. They're strong, they're vibrant, right? They've literally took the soil or the contents in the soil and transformed it into biomass, right? Especially because a lot of that clay, well, it's not even dirt, it's like clay. It's able to extract from that. So these plants are extremely strong. There's a lot of mineral content, etc. And so what I'm gonna do is all this plant material I've created, me and the children, we created this compost area to put everything in that. So I'm gonna buy a chipper, more like a shredder, not really a chipper. And again, no wooded products, no like wood or wood chips, anything like that. This is just plant material, and it's also not leaves, so it's more like plants. So all that goes in there, right? Shred it up, and we're just gonna create a large mass, a large biomass. And so some people probably think, well, what about the weed seeds? And yet, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna compost it down to where the weed seeds are broken down. So that's the goal with this whole. It's just really creating a large biomass area, and I feel like this is it's foundational, and I'm excited about it because it's just another element. Like instead of like, there's no waste when the grass is cut. When let's say we do a large job, because we actually install um, under the land synergy domain, we create permacultures for some of our clients. And hey, you know what, while we're at it, if you listen to this, if that's something that you like, go to landsynergy.net and book a meeting, call me, the number's on there, and we can talk about that. It's essentially everything that I talk about here on this podcast, guys, is essentially what we do for our clients. Is we help create and outline some of the physical installations, removals, etc., so that their property can flourish. And so This system, specifically back to the biomass, or I guess we'll just call it the plant compost. That's for now. Just call it the plant compost because it's the plant material. And so the objective long term with this, guys, is as we get more farm animals, this all like turning that into biomass, and then eventually into soil, and even in the feed, because see these plants that break down um you have pigs, you have chickens, um, cows. Some cows eat a lot of these weeds. These weeds, quote unquote, are plants. The same plants, like they eat this stuff, and so do we. More medicinally though. And so the objective long term with this is to turn into soil, and also as we start to grow the hub, bringing on more animals and actually creating a system to where the ground that we've nourished with the invigorated soil grows these powerful local plants that are invigorating, and we feed it to the animals. And it's a recycling system, because then the manure of the animal, of course, we're going to reuse it. We're going to plant it into the ground and just continue to nourish the ground, guys. It's a system that we are excited about. Is a process. But essentially what we can take away from today's episode is, if you have plant material on your property that you don't really like, or that it's in the way, don't throw it away. Don't take it to the compost, or don't take it to the landfill. Instead, create an area in your backyard and just stack it up. You don't even have to do that. Just stack it up. Stack it up and allow it to break down, and allow it to just eventually degrade into small part. Now, let's back all the way up, because I don't want to confuse you. Now, if you just throw plants in a pile, it's not going to break down quickly. What I plan on doing, what I enjoy and love doing, is coming out to the compost, and I actually have a pitchfork, and I turn the compost every morning. This is therapeutic for me. It really is. I really enjoy doing this. So you could throw all your plant material in an area, but I would highly suggest turning it with a fork, as well as watering it. The watering activates some of the dormant microbes within the material. If it's dry and brittle, it's not gonna decompose quickly. So remember that. If you do want it to break down quickly, but even if you don't, this is a great carbon source that you can continue to add to your plants, guys. Woo! Let's move forward, guys. This is so foundationally expansive, because this right here, guys, creating a system where there's no outputs, like we spoke about a couple weeks ago, this is going to allow you to truly and exponentially grow where there's no loss. Like, to me, like, that's why I was so excited, because we have these areas that we just allow to grow for the butterflies, the insects on the hub. Remember, hub means homestead. Just so you know, that's for our insiders, because as we move forward, I might say that word, and some of our new subscribers might not know, but you'll know, because you're special. You've been with us from the beginning. So yeah, the key, guys, is there's no waste. And so these areas that we've allowed to grow for the insects, the butterflies, etc., the bees. Oh, at the beginning of the year, springtime, the bees were loving the clovers. It was a lot of clovers. And so now it's just a system, guys. Instead of, like, of course it would break down, go back into the ground, but now we're just being intentional with it. And so we're going to take that, turn it into a biomass that is nutritionally rich, and then of course feed it back into the system, whether through the animals, through other plants, etc. Now again, if you're worried about the weed seeds, this can be mitigated by intentionally weeding, or as well as putting down a blocker. So we planted some well, actually we didn't plant it at all. We had some cantaloupe just grow out of the garden, and we just transplanted it, and now it's like we're going into wintertime and it's fruiting. There's like 10 flowers on one of the plants, and it's trying to produce fruit. Now, of course, whether it does or doesn't, that's not the point, because we didn't plan for that. It came up itself. But underneath that, as it was coming out, you had tomatoes, some tomatoes coming out, some other plants. All that can be mitigated by simply weeding or laying down a tarp. And so a lot of these seeds that people worried about, that's not an issue, guys, because the biomass is what we're after. A lot of the biomass has been stripped away from, these urban practices of scraping the topsoil for construction. You've probably seen it when they degrade a forest or whatnot. They take away everything, and then it's just orange clay, and there's no water that flows through. There's no organic material on top, and it's very strong. That's why you have these plants that come forth, such as some of these plants. Well, milk thistle, dandelion, just some random. All these plants are there for a reason. Your front yard, these weeds like dandelions, they're there to restore the soil and to help it. As the ground is recovered, you won't see dandelions. You'll see a different plants, and this is the Earth system. The same way you have a biological approach to restoring your health, just we can't see it. So, guys, that's gonna be it. I feel like I can continue to ramble on. I'm excited about this new input that we created. Until the next one, continue to keep synergizing your land. Yes, your land, my land, our land, because it's all connected. There's no segregate. All these, it's just hypothetical, these lines that we draw. The land and the work that I do here on a frequency level is impacting you, and what you're doing is impacting me. Don't ever think that it's too small, you're not making a change, because the greatest change starts with the smallest step. The smallest step, guys. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. And guess what? Sometimes you might stop. Hell, sometimes you might have to turn around and go back and get something. But guess what? The journey is still moving forward. And what's even more powerful is, guess what? That journey is inside of you. You might have to step back physically 10 steps and go get something. But guess what? Internally, you've learned something. You've learned what not to do so that you don't have to go backwards. The process of growth is stemming from within. And now it's time for us to bring that forth so that we can continue to synergize the land. Much, much love, guys. Much love. And I'll talk to you in the next episode.